Glad to see you tonight. This special session of Independent School District 535 School Board is called to order at 5:30 p.m. November 22nd, 2022 in room 137 of the Edison Building. This board acknowledges that this site and all RPS sites are situated on the ancestral land of the Dakota people, and we honor the Dakota nations and the sacred land of all Indigenous peoples. Interested members of the public are welcomed and encouraged to view this meeting remotely at youtube.com/ISD535, where the live stream video may be found. Present at this meeting are school board members, Superintendent Kent Packel, a non-voting ex officio member, an assistant school board clerk, who is also the executive administrative assistant to the superintendent, Ms. Lori Sam. Ms. Sam, will you please call the roll?
Director Amundsen.
Here.
Clerk Barlow.
Here.
Director Garcia.
Here.
Treasurer McLaughlin.
Here.
Chair Marvin.
Here.
Vice Chair Nathan.
Here.
Director Workman.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, we offer the opportunity to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. 3.01, World's Best Workforce and Achievement and Integration Plans Approval. Dr. Packel.
Dr. Marvin and directors of the board, as you are aware, the state of Minnesota has a law called World's Best Workforce that requires schools districts to set goals in a set number of areas and to annually report to the public in their districts and to the state on their progress in attaining those goals. The school board had an in-depth discussion of Rochester's previous World's Best Workforce plan that was developed during the pandemic and the results of that plan at a study session a couple weeks ago. This is a required public hearing at which we give anyone in the community who wants to comment on the World's Best Workforce plan the opportunity to do so. And then in the regular school board meeting that will begin after this special session, the board will later in the agenda be asked to take a vote approving the submission of that plan to the state. For Rochester, very importantly, we are retiring the previous plan that governed the work of the school district in previous years and asking the board to adopt a new plan and new measures going forward that are aligned with the strategic plan that the board approved in June of this year. And so this really is a sunset of the previous strategy and indicators and the adoption of a new strategy. We know we have lots of folks here who are here for the athletics recognition in the regular board meeting. And so our research director, Dr. Peter Ruck, is going to give a speed reading of our World's Best Workforce proposal. I will be available should any board members want to ask additional questions about the proposal during the regular meeting agenda item on that subject. The purpose here today is to open the floor for anyone who wants to make a comment following Peter's brief overview. The detailed reports are all on our RPS website on the board docs app. So, Dr. Ruck.
I am not known for parsimony, so I will try to be fast. So this evening I'm before you to present formally the World's Best Workforce and Achievement and Integration plans that we were discussing at the previous study session. As Dr. Packel mentioned, we are going to be sunsetting these plans this year. And the reports that are due to the state are due on December 15th and include just a summary of the outcomes that we have measured so far. There is not an update, or there is not a mechanism for updating the plan this year. The state has only asked for quantitative outcomes, which is what we're reporting. And then we, as Dr. Packel mentioned, we will better align our future efforts along with what is lovingly known as the grid, a long list of outcomes and goals that are tied directly to our current and new strategic plan. Those are available on board docs and can be viewed by members of the public there. The three reporting components of the plan are the World's Best Workforce, Achievement and Integration, and then one sub-report for racially identifiable schools, which for us in the prior year was Gauge. So Gauge had a separate report due as well. These goals were set prior to the pandemic. So while a number of them were not met, the pandemic really disrupted a lot of our good work and efforts working towards achieving some of these goals. So while some of them are some notable successes, a variety weren't met, and I think that's to be expected under the circumstances. So what comes next? As we have our better opportunity to align our goals, we will be able to measure them more systematically and on a regular basis. And we'll also be able to use some rigorous research methods to make sure we are meeting our benchmarks and targets along the way. This gives us a lot more leverage as we lean into some of those goals and really showing us whether or not we're performing in the way that we hope to. And so with that, between that and the presentation from the study session, that is what I have for you this evening on World's Best Workforce.
Thank you, Dr. Ruck. And at this time, if there are any community members here who would like to make a comment to the board, we ask you to come forward, sit at this table here, speak into one of the microphones, and give us your name. We may ask you to spell it so we have it spelled correctly for the record. Any community members who wish to speak? Going twice. Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned at 5:37 p.m. This regular meeting of Independent School District 535 School Board is called to order at 5:37 p.m. November 22nd in room 137 of the Edison Building. We've already acknowledged the Dakota land on which our buildings are situated. We've recited the Pledge of Allegiance, and so at this point, I'm going to ask Assistant School Board Clerk Lori Sam to please call the roll again.
Director Amundson.
Still here.
Clerk Barlow.
Here.
Director Garcia.
Here.
Treasurer McLaughlin.
Here.
Chair Marvin.
Here.
Vice Chair Nathan.
Here.
And Director Workman.
Here.
2.01, approval of this agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. There are no comments to the board this evening, so now we move to 4.01, recognition of student athletes. Dr. Piquel.
Thank you, Chair Marvin and directors of the board. I want to welcome all of you, the students, the athletes, the parents, other caregivers, coaches, our activities directors. Thank you for coming down. We know you are busy. This means a lot, and we want to recognize you. I made it to a lot of your games and competitions, but not all of them, and I'm going to get to the other ones next season. And so here's the process we're going to follow. We're going to go in alphabetical order, so we'll start with Century. I'll call up the activities director for each school, and then they will direct the coaches and teams to come up. After a team is done, we are going to have somebody from the cabinet, I believe it's Chief of Schools Jackie Peterson, using her photography skills. We're going to ask the team to turn and face the audience for a picture. If there's any parents, caregivers, friends that also want to take a picture at that time, please do it. We're going to put these out on social media, so if you're in hiding for any criminal reasons, let us know. We won't put it out. And then when we've finished a school, we'll ask the next activities director to come up. So a picture for each team or individual if you're here just as an individual, so that we can record this moment. Generally speaking, you can face the board while your coach or activities director is describing your great work, and then turn and face the room for the picture. And with that, I'll ask Mark Queasley, the activities director of Century High School, to come and kick us off.
And as Mr. Queasley is coming up here, you should know this is all recorded, so you can watch yourselves on TV later this evening.
Good evening, board members, Chair Marvin, directors, Dr. Piquel. We are honored again to be here. I think you shocked a couple of the kids when you closed the board meeting right away, and they were wondering what was going on. First of all, for Century High School, I'm going to start out with our adapted team. They just qualified for the state tournament last week. They're already into practice for this week for the winter season, but they placed 4th place at the state tournament last week. Coach is Katie Jorgensen. Assistant coach is Mike Dusso. Athletes are Calvin Rowland from John Marshall, Joe Hansen from John Marshall, William Adamson from Byron, Sam Steinberg from Mayo, Andrew Westerman from Century, Nate Barber from Byron, Brendan Booth from Byron, Charlie Clark from Byron, Eli Yoder from Century, and Sam Morrissey from Century. So again, great season for the adapted floor hockey team, who finished 4th. Coach John Vick was not able to attend. He is teaching tonight at the Area Learning Center. We want to recognize our football team for academic silver. There were 5 Class 5A teams in Minnesota that received the Academic Silver Award, so congratulations to Century High School. That means they had a cumulative GPA of 3.65 or higher. Up next, girls track. I know we're talking about fall, but this one we needed to put in here because we didn't have one last spring. So if I could have our state champion 4x1 relay team, please come forward. Let's face the board first. They get to look at you first. First of all, Coach Chris Allen, she's on a trip in Europe right now. She was named the AA Head Coach of the Year last spring for track and field, and we are proud of Chris and the work she has done. The team finished 6th at the state tournament. Just a little bit about this relay. They had a lot of success during the season. I was standing there on the infield watching them, and the lady on my far left was behind, and I think she outstretched the girl by 3 inches maybe at the finish line. And so one heck of a race, one great accomplishment for this group. First of all, on the far left is Megan Lund. Did you wave? Sarah Linder was another one. Madison Haberstad. And Favor, I'm going to slow down on this one. Favor Omo I Juan Fo. Okay, so maybe if I say it really fast and try and run a 100-yard relay, maybe I'll get it right. How close was I? Come here, come here.
Omo Jawan Fo.
Right.
Not bad. Again, our 4x1 state championship relay. And if their parents are here, we'd like them to stand, and then now you can turn around
Now we got to get your picture.
and face. Yep. Up next, I'll do volleyball. Nichelle Gilliam was not able to attend. I know I have Paige Decker here as an All-State, so if Paige would please come forward at this time. Paige Decker for volleyball was All-State for us. She is also going on to the University of Minnesota Duluth to become a Bulldog next year. And so she was also academic All-State for Century High School, and a teammate, Brooke Menike, was also academic All-State, and the team was silver academic All-State. So Paige, congratulations. And if you turn around, I think Mr. and Mrs. Decker are here. Is Dad hiding in the corner? Oh, he's in back, okay. All right. Up next, we'll go Coach Hal Houghton.
I always love going first. This is Abdirazak Bilale. I'm the boys soccer coach. He was our top scorer this year. He made All-State, second team. He's gone from being kind of a shy 10th grader who wasn't all that comfortable with the language and kind of quiet on the field to last year he was one of our strong support players, and this year he filled a gigantic hole for the 17 seniors we lost last year. He had 19 goals and 8 assists on the season, and now my trick will be figuring out how to fill the hole he's going to leave next year. So, great.
And if are your parents here by chance? No? Okay. All right, up next, Brent McGrew, girls cross country.
I'm introducing Jaslyn Hannenberger, who's a 10th grader, and she has made it to the state cross-country meet for the second year in a row, and also earned academic all-state with a top 15 finish in the section. And then our girls team also qualified for the, I believe, gold award with our top 5 average was a 3.975, so quite the academic group. So, Jaslyn.
And fresh out of the water from last weekend, girls swim coach Megan Magnuson and Dale had another engagement tonight, so Megan's going to come up and talk about the accomplishments of our girls swim team.
Good evening, and please indulge me if you don't mind. These 5 young women represent the 5 all-state athletes who competed this past weekend at the University of Minnesota at the state meet. And these accomplishments are worthy of repeating again. The team in all was undefeated in dual meet season. We are 3-time Big 9 conference champions, Section 1AA champions, narrowly defeating Lakeville North. They have earned an academic silver award. They placed 11th at the state meet, which is the highest placement of Century High School in history. And we have 5 all-state athletes. We have not qualified an all-state athlete since 2009. Individually, our 400 freestyle relay placed 6th, highest in standing. We had an 8th place 200 medley relay, 8th place 100 fly, 12th place 100 backstroke, 12th place 50 freestyle, 13th place in the 200 freestyle, 14th in the 200 IM, 16th in the 50 free, 16th in the 100 free, and then 16th in the 500 free. Combined, these 5 individuals have swum more than 1,560,000 yards in preparation for events that last literally seconds, minutes at most. We need to honor these, and I'm thankful that we can honor these individuals tonight. It is notable that these individuals accomplished these tasks while swimming and competing, practicing really in the Willow Creek Middle School pool, which we are grateful for that home. We are also grateful for our brand new home at Century High School to be open in a very few short weeks. So thank you, board, from the bottom of our hearts. I'm going to introduce to my far left over there, Sophia Blixt, Emily Garrison, Paige Patton, Catherine Homme, and Chloe Magnuson.
Can I take your picture?
And also thank you to the parents of the girls swim and dive team. Up next is Mr. Erke.
Members of the board, Superintendent Pikel, thank you for having us out tonight. I have the pleasure of talking about one individual from John Marshall tonight, Julia Ogren. Julia is a 9th grader for us. She was 3rd place in the 200 freestyle at the state meet, 4th place in the 100 backstroke at the state meet. She was named Section 1AA Swimmer of the Year, and she was all-state in both of those events. She can't be here tonight. I texted her mother, Betsy, and I said, will she be able to join us? And she said, unfortunately, we're heading to the University of Alabama where her sister Anna swims, and they're going to attend the Iron Bowl this weekend with Auburn and Alabama. So roll tide for Anna. I don't know if I would cheer for the Alabama football team, but definitely a big fan of the Alabama swim team. One thing about her sister Anna, she was the fastest time in 2020 in the state, but unfortunately we did not have a state swim meet that year due to COVID. But she still had the fastest time of the year and obviously swims in Alabama. Interesting thing about Julia, the younger sister, she beat Anna's record in the section meet this year. So it was interesting to see them FaceTiming down at the rec center right after it happened. So congratulations to her. Once again, she's a 9th grader, expecting big things in the future. Our girls swim team was awarded a gold academic award this year as well. So congratulations to JM and Coach Bachman.
Hi, I'm Jeff Whitney, Activities Director of Mayo High School. And again, Dr. Pikel and board, thanks for having us down. It's great to acknowledge the hard work that not only our athletes are here to receive, but obviously there's many people, parents and coaches behind them that have been able to help them work to achieve these goals. So we're very proud of them. We're going to hustle up and do the tennis very quickly. We've got one athlete in the tennis team that's got to go play a girls hockey game, and she's waiting patiently to throw the hockey pads on. So girls tennis, Jeff, do you want to come up? The girls tennis team was state runner-ups this year. They lost in the state championship. Jeff will tell you a little bit about their season.
All right. Come on up. Good evening. I am Jeff Demaray, head coach at Mayo, obviously. I've been around for a while, I think 32 years, but I'm so proud of this group of ladies. We won the section championship for the 25th time in the last 26 years. And so we accomplished something this year that we've never done before, though. And we finally beat Edina in the semifinals. That's right. That's right. That's right. It's been a long time. Yeah, so we beat them 5-2 in the semifinals. We lost in the finals to a great Minnetonka team, which has almost a senior. I think they have 7 seniors on the team. So we're excited for next year. But this team, I am so proud of these ladies. They're a great group of gals. We have wonderful, wonderful parents that have really supported us throughout the year. We have great fans, and thank you, Jeff Whitney, also for all your hard work and your support. But I just want to name each one of them. So if you could just step forward, ladies. I know there's not a lot of area to step, but let's start out with Claire Loftus. Claire, if you could just step forward, please.
Just wave.
All right, Aoife Loftus. All right, Keely Ryder, is she here? There she is. All right, and then we have Anna Medina. Nandini Iyer. All right, Audrey Aney. Is Taylor Hill here? All right, how about Malia Dean? Nope. Okay, and then we have Ella Dozois, Captain Ella Dozois, and Captain Jordan Ruskell. All right, so that is the team. Let's give them a round, all right? There you go. Now I'm going to do the individual awards. So we had a great state championship up there a couple weeks ago. So I always want to do the team first. That's what it's all about. But we have state champions today, and we have Claire and Aoife Loftus won the state doubles championship in 2A, and so that's the first time since 2015. So ladies, if you could step forward, let's give them a round. All right, and then Keely Ryder and Malia Dean, although Malia's not here, won the Constellation Championship. So Keely, if you could step forward. All right. And again, we're just so proud of you ladies. Great job this year. It was a lot of fun, and that's the most important thing, is having a lot of fun, learning life lessons, and they improved so much. So we're just so proud of them. Congratulations, ladies.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, next up will be our boys soccer coach, Tim Jennings, and he'll talk about our couple of athletes that we have and an academic award.
So thank you, Jeff. So the Mayo boys soccer team followed up a fantastic season last year with a fantastic season this year, finishing with an overall record of 16-2. We won the Big Nine Conference Championship. We repeated as the Section 1 AAA section champions, and we went to state. Unfortunately, didn't quite make it back up to the US Bank Stadium this year, but we overall had a fantastic season as a team. We earned the Academic Silver Medal Award, which means that our overall cumulative GPA on our team was between 3.5 and 3.74. So that's an impressive accomplishment. And we had one player, Juan Ibarra, named to the state all-tournament team, which is fantastic. And we had one player named to the all-state team, that's Brian Islas Aguirre. He was not able to be here today, he was a senior captain. And he also scored the overtime goal in the section final to send us to state, which is quite an amazing goal if you've seen it online. Also representing our team today, we have Xavi Locke, who is a senior captain, and Noah Bestrom, who is a senior captain. Our other senior captain, Alec McBain, could not be here today because he is playing hockey. So it's a great season for all of you guys. Congratulations. Thank you very much for all the hard work you put in.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Is Christy Kinnenberg here? I don't think Christy could make it. Do we have any of the boys cross-country runners here? Lucas? I think I'll mention those individuals next. Christy Kinnenberg is our boys and girls cross-country coach. Both our boys and girls cross-country teams were all-state gold team awards, like the other teams, met that standard for the high GPA. And then we had Lucas Olson and Lucas Kramer. Both participants in the boys state cross-country meet were academic all-state and state participants, and they both placed in that meet of 160 runners up at St. Olaf College. So congratulations to those guys as they had a great year, and our girls team on the academic award. All right, next up, we are going to go with Coach Frederick from our volleyball team. She'll talk about our academic awards and some awards for individuals.
Follow the path. Where's Maria? Okay. She's sleeping. Okay. I'm Deb Frederick. I'm the volleyball coach. I've been at Mayo for longer than they're old, so I don't know if that says a lot or not, but we've had great success with our program for many years. Obviously, we finished 23-6. We lost in not a game we'd like to remember. Right, guys? Right. We only remember the 23 at that point. But our section is tough. It's been the whole season. Century would be at that. We took them with a battle too, back and forth this year. But we are a gold academic team, which is 3.8 or higher for volleyball. I have 4 seniors that are academic all-state. Maria Winter is not here today. We don't know where she is. Rachel Thompson, Maria Winter, I said that, Maddie Meyer, and then Hannah Hansen. Our team GPA is like 3.9. There's a lot of 4.0s on my senior crew. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Hannah Hansen was also all-state for volleyball. Second one in our program since I've been there, or since probably forever. So it's a pretty honor. We'll take it any day. They're a great group of kids. Thanks for working hard, ladies.
I haven't been, maybe, we have some parents I know of the volleyball. Can we have the volleyball parents stand up? Thank them as well. Awesome. I know we had some tennis players too, tennis parents, if they want to wave too for being here. There's a handful in the back. And I'm not sure, do we have any soccer parents? Awesome, right here. Congratulations. Obviously, like I said earlier, they have a lot at stake in here with all the commitment they made as well throughout their children's careers. All right, next up will be Juliet Parlett with our girls swim and dive team for some awards and state tournament participants.
Hi, my name is Julia Parlett, and I'm the head coach of the girls swim and dive team, and I have been coaching for 12 years, so not as long as these guys are old. Close. Thank you very much for having us tonight, and I would like to thank Mr. Whitney for all his support this year, and our parents who were so invaluable to me. So tonight I have a small representation of the awesome group of girls I got to coach this year. We just finished our state meet on Friday, as Mark mentioned, so I think we win for the longest running season, since we also started in August just like everybody else. And so this year, we had a great year. We placed second at the conference meet and third at the section meet, and I took these 6 athletes to state, so I'm going to mention them, starting furthest away from me and how they placed. So furthest away is Natalie Borgian. She is a senior. She was at the state meet, she was in the medley relay that placed 12th and the 400 free relay that placed 14th. She also was all-state in the 50 free, which is the shortest event, and she got 8th, and the 500 free, which is the longest event, and she got 7th. And she is going to swim for Emory University next year. And she's also a captain. So beside her, who is that? Gabby. So we have Gabby Lee beside her, who is in 10th grade, and she was in our medley relay, first time to state. As I mentioned, place 12th. In the middle, we have Abby Weigel, who is our diver. She placed 17th in diving, and she is also our diving captain, also a senior. Next, we have Julia Benke, also first time to state, a 10th grader. She was in the 400 free relay that placed 14th. And then we have Elise Weingarten, who is in 8th grade, second time to state, and she was in the medley relay, the placed 12th, and the 400 free relay. And right beside me is Madeline Gao, who is in 9th grade, who was in the medley relay, the 400 free relay, and placed 11th in the 100 fly. And this is her second time to state. We also got the gold academic standard. Our average on our team is 3.8. And so thank you very much for having us.
All right, good job. Congratulations. Do we have any parents from the swimmers here? Any parents want us to wave? Congratulations. Okay, and last but not least, Coach Holcomb from the boys football team.
All right, my name's Donnie Holcomb. Thank you for recognizing everybody here today, and congrats to everybody's successful seasons. These guys in front of us, 3 of them are captains: Brig Poppy, Tor Pappenfuss, and Ethan Kramer. They're 3 of our senior captains that have done an outstanding job of being leaders in our program, not just this year, but in the past years that they've been on our varsity program. We've been fortunate to be able to be back-to-back section champions, and also to meet the gold standard for the academic award as well. Along with that, we have Ethan Kramer that received academic all-state, which, as far as I can remember, it's only the second time we've had a football player from Mayo receive that award for a long time, at least 20 plus years. So that's a neat accomplishment for him. And then Rudy Lazoya on the end was selected to play in the Minnesota Vikings All-Star game. So that's coming up on December 10th. So besides the success of having a good season, as far as record-wise, these guys represent a group of young men that have worked extremely hard, and as proud as I am of them for record and that sort of thing, I'm super proud of who they are and what they represent to Mayo High School. So thank you for having us.
Do we have any football parents to be recognized in the back there? Just a quick note, that's real hard for Coach Holcomb to say Minnesota Vikings because he's a Packer fan. So that I'm glad he that's on record now, Donnie. So, and again, thanks for, I think that's our last athletic recognition. So thanks again for having us down. We appreciate all the support.
And thank you. Congratulations to all the athletes, and thank you to the coaches, the parents, and the caregivers for helping these young people become successful. Students, I know you would love to stay for the rest of the meeting, and you are absolutely welcome to, but I can see on your faces, some of you want to get home and do that homework. So if you feel compelled to hit the books, you're absolutely excused.
Thank you.
It's a lot of homework.
Babies. Getting ready to clap. You are?
And there were no.
That looks like a typical audience.
The next item on our agenda is 4.02, recognition of Scott Sherden. Dr. Piquel.
Chair Marvin and directors of the board, our Executive Director of Operations, Scott Sherden, is days from retiring from our school district, and we want to take a moment to acknowledge him and thank him for his leadership. In just a second, I'm going to ask our Chief of Schools, Jackie Peterson, to come up and take the lead in that. But I want to, before I do that, just personally thank Scott for the fact that he has provided incredible support, leadership, and wisdom during my first year here, a year that had some challenges. And as I was thinking about Scott earlier today, and sort of what, in some ways, for me, typifies Scott Sherden, I thought of a book, of course, by some obscure researchers. They're actually not that obscure, they're super famous in the research world. They're psychologists who did a study of good work. And for those of you who want to know, it's Howard Gardner of Multiple Intelligence's fame, Csikszentmihalyi of Flow, and William Damon of Purpose. And these are like three rock stars who came together to study good work. And they defined good work as work of expert quality that benefits the broader society. And when I think of Scott, I think of expert quality that benefits the broader society. And that's been true in all of the work Scott's done in our operations field with facilities and maintenance, but I think it's particularly true in the area that combines his first career with his second, which has been safety and keeping our kids and staff safe. And so I want to just briefly give you this really quick paragraph on good work, because for me, this really typifies Scott Sherden. In every historical era, many people have sought to carry out good work. It has always been true that some people do their work expertly, but not very responsibly. People who do good work, in our sense of the term, are clearly skilled in one or more professional realms. At the same time, rather than merely following money or fame alone or choosing the path of least resistance when in conflict, they are thoughtful about their responsibilities and the implications of their work. At best, they are concerned to act in a responsible fashion with respect toward their personal goals, their family, friends, peers, and colleagues, their mission or sense of calling, the institutions with which they are affiliated, and lastly, the wider world. People they do not know, those who will come afterward, and in the grandest sense, to the planet or to God. That may seem a little grandiose, but Scott, in so many of the things you've done, including these wonderful new buildings that will be educating kids for decades, you have laid that kind of a foundation of good work, and we thank you for it. Jackie?
Scott, you and I had a chance to have a heart-to-heart earlier, and you know how deeply grateful I am to you for your leadership and friendship, but I'm going to read this and not look at you so that we got through this. I'm honored to say a few words to recognize my colleague and friend, Scott Sherden, for his service to the district over the past 8 years as a cabinet member, and before that, 18 years coaching girls track at JM, Go Rockets. And also 3 years as an SRO at Kellogg Middle School. I think he would have stayed longer, but he was promoted and needed to move on. Scott is not one for the limelight, but he has no choice but to sit here and listen tonight. One of Scott's colleagues asked me if it would be possible to quantify how many presentations he has provided to the school board during his tenure with RPS. I could have counted them up in board docs, but I didn't, and you're welcome, Dr. Piquel. I'm sure that would give you a heart attack. I bet we would all agree, though, that the number would be in the hundreds and that they all started with an eye-twinkling, good evening, school board. And while the board knows Scott best for his knowledge of radon tests and lead and water counts, for his change orders and his referendum updates, for his acquired knowledge of the construction business, the construction of not only one but 4 new buildings, and the renovation of many a building. Some of us also know him for his unwavering presence in a crisis situation. Whether a bus accident, a roof failing under the weight of nearly a foot of snow, a bomb threat, Scott is the first on the scene because he knows all the quickest routes from point A to point B, and the first to foster a calm but efficient and productive response. He's strategic in taking a situation from start to finish and is ever mindful of learning from each event. He never forgets to point out the strengths and good work of the people involved, and he's always looking for the lessons we can learn as we continuously improve our processes. In the quiet moments following a particularly challenging crisis situation, Scott would often send a text, "Just checking in on you. Are you okay?" As you can imagine, Scott has been involved in many situations where a potentially harmful situation has been averted. Some of these situations would give you goosebumps, such as a middle-of-the-night phone call he's made to a parent whose child is intent on self-harm, a phone call that potentially saved a life. Many oh my gosh calls to Scott, though, have been false alarms and would probably make you laugh if we could share all of them. Like the administrator who called shortly after dinner and said, "There's a guy running around my building with a sword." Turns out it was a fencing class and the person was in the wrong location. But because of data privacy, most of the humorous stories I have can't be shared, and they'll never end up in the book we joke about writing, The Things You Can't Make Up. Scott would have more than one chapter in that book. Scott will miss you, not just because some of us will now be first on the list to receive those middle-of-the-night phone calls, but because of your unwavering support for the district, your professionalism, and your friendship. A few days ago, I had the opportunity to see you with some of your children, your 2 sons and your daughter-in-law. And it reminded me of the incredible importance you place on family. So much so that you have built a home centered around your grandchildren and your children. You've been a faithful servant leader, protecting and serving this community in the Rochester Public Schools for your entire career. You've earned this time in your life to slow down and enjoy what you've created, centered around your family. So all of us here tonight, we send you off with our deepest gratitude and with joy. Even though we'll miss you greatly, don't forget us. Thanks, Scott.
And Scott, you thought maybe you were going to get away without the board saying something. You've met us before, so you know better. As we've been talking about you, Scott, and we talk about you a lot, because, and it's in a good way, because you're the guy, since you got to this district as the school resource officer, you're the one who keeps us safe. You're the one who shows up, as Jackie and Kent have said, in the middle of the night, on weekends, early in the morning, when a child is in danger, when the roof has blown off. You're the one that keeps kids safe by doing whatever those radon tests are, making sure the windows are secure. The work you've done over the recent years, the most Herculean building project this district has ever experienced, 4 school buildings, and safe entrances, and auditorium sound systems, and that swimming pool. And you knew about all the moving parts in every single project. You knew the specs, you did the change orders, I still don't understand those. But what you were concerned about is that kids had a beautiful, safe place to be. It was always about making sure that it would be a healthy environment and a safe place for our staff and our children. As you and Lisa move to your lake home and can enjoy the next chapter of your life with your children, with your grandchildren on that beautiful lake, the board wants to know that you too are going to be safe. We can't be there to protect you, although we would not turn down an invitation. But we did want to give you this. And Scott, it's Coast Guard certified. And it comes with a training book that says Think Safe. All the specs are here. It's a PDF it's the best one. And so maybe this winter, as you are sitting in front of your fireplace at the lake, reading this book that we've all signed, you'll think, and probably watching the Tuesday night school board meeting. We hope that you remember us, because we can promise you, we will always remember you.
Yes.
You have to try on your present. Good evening.
I have 2 more good evenings.
Oh, that's true.
Thank you all. All right, sit back and relax. I got a lot to say. You know, I'm not, for sentimental speeches, not a good time to start now, but thank you to all of you for all the years and all the approvals with minimal amount of questions. That's always good. You've done phenomenal work in approving what these beautiful buildings and the referendum and all the other things that I've brought forth over here. Superintendent Piquel, thank you for everything you've done. Of course, Chair Marvin and my colleagues in cabinet. You know, I got to work particularly with Jackie and Carl and John a lot, and the other, not to diminish the work with the other cabinet members, but my daily focus is with John, Jackie, and Carl. Phenomenal people, all of them over there. The ones in the back that happened to show up, I don't know why they did, but you talk about building the buildings. I'm not the person that built them. Those are the people that built them back there. They're the ones with the expert. You have the guru back there, Bill Burt. You have Julie Clayman, who will take over the safety and security. You have Jerry Peters, Jim Allheiser. Then you have Jeff Cappers, Lynn Roboleski, Josh Chapman from Transportation. When I started on the district, I retired from the police department in November of 2014. And I was retired about a month, and I said, I need something else to do. And so they created, I had applied, maybe I shouldn't say this story, but why do I care?
You got nothing to lose now.
Too late
so.
now. So you don't know this maybe, but I applied to be the athletic director at John Marshall High School.
Oh.
Because I was looking. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. I didn't get the job, which is fine because Angie Meister got it, and she is wonderful. But I actually coached her in track, and she beat me out to get the position. So, and I was fine with that. But right after I was told I wasn't going to get that position, then I got a phone call from the assistant superintendent, Brenda Lewis, at the time, and she said, "Hey, with your skill set, we're going to create this position of district safety and security and performance management. We were wondering if you'd want to be interested in applying for it." So I applied for it, and I was
truly my good fortune to get the position and to come here. But then after that, what they didn't tell me was, well, after that, we're going to start putting up a lot of other stuff on you. And, hey, we're going to give you facilities. We're going to give you health and safety. We're going to give you transportation. And I thought, oh, my goodness. And it morphed into there. I was hoping to do 5 years and retire again. My wife began working here as well. She retired from the police department and then began to work here. And we had goals and everything. And then this thing called a referendum came along in November of 2019. And our wonderful construction division of one, Bill Burt, at the time, and I was trying to help him with it, along with Mike Stock from Health and Safety and Jerry Ernst and all the others. And now we were tasked with building 4 new buildings and a pool. And so we were standing there scratching our head. And I said, oh my goodness, how are we going to do this? Because I was planning to leave. So I decided to stick around and ride it out and see what happened. And the phenomenal amount of people that I met along the way, I know that Chad from Delco's back there as well. Matt Moles from Bolton and Mank was back there. And Knutson Construction, as I've expounded upon over all this time. LHB and CRW, the architectural firms, just the phenomenal professional group that I got to know and what I learned along the way. I guess I was kind of the face of the construction, but the real work was done by the people back there. And that transportation, as we've talked about in the past before, the phenomenal amount of work, the 12-hour days that they put in every single day to make sure 11,000 students get to and from school safely. You should sit back there and watch what they do. It's just unbelievable. And the things that they have to adjust is, with the bus driver shortage and that kind of thing. But I've said enough already, but Jackie, that was very nice what you said. It is always hard to say goodbye. Thank you all, and I know my wife, who is a huge support of all this, is behind all this, and you're welcome to come and visit. All we're going to give you is our P.O. box. You'll have to come and find us out there. You won't get our address, but you'll get our P.O. box. You'll have to come and stalk us out there. And we're moving to Wisconsin, so I'm not sure how I'm going to handle that one in Green Bay country, but we'll have to see. But thank you all so much, and I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And as Scott said, his wife Lisa is here. Lisa, if you have to do homework, you can be excused too. Okay, now we are at 4.03, Board Member Committee Update. Any board members who have committee work they'd like to report on? Not the Policy Committee yet, though.
I have my own agenda item.
You have a big agenda item coming up. Ms. Workman? Yeah.
I guess I had my hand up, sort of. Ms. Amundson and I both attended the pre-delegate workshop in the last week or so, and we are the legislative committee will be looking at the recommendations, the legislative agenda from both MSBA and AMSD, and talking about how those fit in with our goals for Rochester Public Schools. So I look forward to that conversation on December 6th, I think is when our next board meeting is. So it's been good work. It's been interesting, and I hope that everybody here is really motivated to get involved with the legislature this coming session.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Nathan?
So I know some of my other colleagues and the superintendent also attended some of the high school musicals that were held over the past 2 weeks. And I was able to attend Beauty and the Beast, but I also attended a dress rehearsal of Mary Poppins. And while the evening performance was fabulous, I just had to talk a little bit about what I saw at the dress rehearsal. It was a run-through, a little rough for the students, but what was most meaningful was when the cast and the crew gathered and the director was giving them notes on their performance, on where to stand and a volume, but also the little things like tracking down the last props and making sure that the costumes for Mary Poppins, which is set in 1928, were appropriate to the time. The girls had to cover their ankles because in 1928 you wouldn't see any ankles or blue jeans showing underneath the skirts. And it just reminded me, having been in high school theater and drama, as I know my colleague was as well, it's not just song and dance and learning your lines. It's the problem solving and the team building and all the life lessons that they learned. So while we got to enjoy the product in the evenings, I know they've learned lessons that they're going to carry on into everything that they do that'll be successful. So thanks to all the students and the staff and the parents who support that, because it's a long haul, but it was worth it.
I have a couple of things. I was able to attend the Culture Day at Mayo High School, where students from, it was 10 or 12 different countries, had tables and showed some of the food and the clothing and some of the other cultural items from their country, from their native country. And they were teaching other students about these things. It was a lot of noise, a lot of action, a lot of laughter, and a whole lot of learning was going on informally. But the incredible mix of students that we have in our high schools and the richness that they bring to each other, I think it's a huge gift that Rochester offers to its students. We also had a student school board meeting. This is for secondary students who come together. They meet in this room. They conduct a board meeting. They decide what the focus issue is, and then had a robust conversation about things that are working well in their schools, things that are not, and they're looking at how they can go about planning to make change. And for the most part, it's small changes, but I think that's important that students, that all of us learn, that whining doesn't change anything. You need to decide what's the problem, what are some solutions, who do we need to work with, and how is this going to make everybody's life better. I also attended the Family Engagement Committee meeting. It was at Riverside Elementary School this year. Riverside is a community school, and they gave us a quick sort of review of what goes on at Riverside. Besides having community room for students and parents who need some clothes, some food for the weekend, they need resources, information about how they can get medical care. They also have the newcomers program there, and this is for students who are brand new to this country. They may not be fluent in the English language or completely comfortable with the culture here, and it's an amazing place to welcome them to Rochester, welcome them to our schools, and get them ready to go out to their neighborhood school. Another thing, I don't know if the entire world knows about Riverside Elementary yet, but they have the coolest mural in the universe outside their building. It was created by the students, by community artists, and then community members came to help paint it. But it's this enormous mural showing our kids in action. And finally, the Pomoja women, there were two young women, Fatma Ahmed and Khadija Ali, talked about the organization that they are chairing. This is for women who are from East Africa, who are new here. And they help to empower these women to find out about how school works, to find out about how our medical system works, to help them with a language if they need that. And it's just an incredible program. It's in English and Swahili and Somali, And we have some rock stars who are helping newcomers really feel welcomed and empowered and to be involved citizens in this community. So I talk a lot. Any other?
They did a lot of voter empowerment as well the last.
Oh, and voter empowerment, absolutely, going and
voting and more accessible to their community.
Exactly. I mean, it's just, and I think it's an example of the kind of partnerships and groups that want to partner with our schools, with our students, and with our families. So it couldn't be more important. Then we will move to the consent agenda, 5.0. Any items to be removed for future further consideration? Hearing none.
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is approved. And Dr. Piquel, you had a message.
Yes, as is too often the case, the consent agenda includes the loss of a member of the Rochester Public Schools family. In this instance, it's Mary Herbers, who was with our Elton Hills Elementary School. And I got from Steve Willman, the principal, this statement about Mary. Mary Herbers was an Eagle through and through. Though she was not in the building this school year, she worked at Elton Hills for close to 18 years, and in that time saw a whole generation of Eagles grow and do great things. She was incredibly kind, calm, and caring towards her students. She worked primarily with the youngest of students, and her demeanor led to them following and adoring her as she cared for and taught them. She was truly a blessing for decades to her colleagues, kids, and the community. She didn't just work at Elton Hills, she was a parent of Eagles. Her kids went to Elton Hills prior to her employment as a beloved education support professional. Our thoughts go out to her family and especially her devoted husband, Jim. Thank you for sharing Mary with the Elton Hills family, and I would add with the Rochester Public Schools family. Mary's legacy will endure in the faces and hearts of the students whom she guided through their elementary years so graciously. A bench in her honor will be donated to the school through donations from her classmates and the Parent-Teacher Student Association. It took an hour and a half to see the family at the wake due to the line at the service.
Talk about people making a difference. And I'm thinking so many of them never really know how important they are. So, thank you, Dr. Piquel. Our focus topic this evening, 6.0, is professional development. Dr. Piquel.
Chair Marvin and directors of the board, per board policy, the board is to receive every year an update on the professional development that we provide for our educators. For those of you who don't sort of live in edu-speak world, sometimes professional development is called training. But the term professional development really is more accurate because it is about how we help our educators sometimes learn new content, new techniques, new ways of teaching, how to teach a new curriculum, but other times reflect on their own practice and collaborate with colleagues. We know professional development is an indispensable component of school improvement, along with great curricula and great frequent assessment and great social emotional supports and many other things that are the focus of the board's discussions every week. And so I want to welcome and thank Heather Willman and Peter Dodds, who respectively lead our elementary and secondary curriculum and instruction work in the Office of Academics, to give the board an overview of the prior year's work in professional development, and if I'm guessing, some thoughts about the work that's ahead of us. So thank you, Heather and Peter.
All right. Well, and what a night to think about the impact of all of our educators, just thinking about our athletes and our coaches and hearing about Mary Herbers. I think we all know the importance of continuing to support our teachers. I think we have the best teachers in the state and probably the country. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we keep our educators growing, learning, and supported. So Dr. Pakel mentioned that this is 21-22, so this is last year. So we want to make sure that you know that we're giving you just a little bit of a summary of the academic work around professional development. There's lots more professional development that's happening that's guided by site staff development committees. And so this is really going to be focused around academics. And really the purpose of our professional development is in the end to increase student outcomes. So we'll talk about what all of those efforts have looked like. One thing we wanted to talk about, that idea of what is effective professional development, because you might think of going to a training, you might think of going to a workshop, but there's lots of ways that we really grow and develop. And so we wanted to kind of just call out from the Learning Policy Institute some of the things that we really strive for when we think about professional development. So we want to think about content focused. We want our teachers to be able to get more training and more learning in the content that they're teaching. We want to make sure it's active. We want to make sure there's collaboration. So a lot of times that might be professional learning communities, that might be learning and growing from one another. I just came from a site today where teachers are working on instructional rounds, where they actually go out, see each other's practice, and just like medical rounds, then think about, well, what would I take back to my own practice? We want to be able to see those models of effective practice. And then we know that in order to grow and learn, we need coaching and expert support. And so sometimes that's our colleague next door. Sometimes that's an instructional coach. But the best professional development isn't just that one-time training. It's that growth and reflection and development. And we also know it's of sustained duration. So it's usually not the one and done. I go to a 1 hour session or a 2 hour session and then I'm finished. If we really think about deepening our practice, it's going to be over a period of time. So as you think about what we're going to share tonight, we wanted to kind of call out some of those elements of effective professional development. So our overall goals for professional development last year were, number one, to increase academic achievement for each learner. So that's our number one focus area. If we're doing professional development well, we should be seeing increased academic achievement. Second, we wanted to provide support and feedback to our new teachers through our new teacher induction program. As you know, this is a time when we're really needing to support and encourage more people to go into the field of education. And then once we hire them, we need to make sure we're supporting them and giving them the tools that they need. So that's really important. Third, we want to look at evidence-based structured literacy practices at the elementary level. So Peter's going to talk a little bit about that. And then also in our special education classrooms. And then we worked really hard on refining our science instruction to align with the new science standards. And that is a process that will be much more than 1 year. That will be many years of working on that, but the work has been started anyway. And then fifth, we looked really hard at our writing instruction in grades 6 through 12. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. So one highlight that I think we do really well is our new teacher induction program. So we have 2.5 days in August. We've added that 0.5 day to make sure that we have differentiated support for our special education teachers. And we really start with, how do you create a positive learning environment in your classroom? It's been kind of tricky through the years to think about, like, what do our teachers need to get started right away? And how do we make sure that we're not overwhelming them with too many details and things that they can learn later on? So we really think about, well, what will that first week look like? What will that next week maybe look like? And then who are your go-to people? So we connect them with veteran teachers to look at content-specific support, and then they review curricular resources with them. So this year we were at Century High School, and we had many veteran teachers who came in, spent a few hours with the teacher, and then shared their curricular resources. We also wanted them to have a little bit of an introduction to social emotional learning signature practices. So what does an opening look like in your classroom, and how do you get all voices in the room? What does it look like to really think about engagement? And then how do you summarize or get students to think about the learning? And then technology is also a big one. That one's probably the toughest in terms of how do you support everyone with their varying needs, because we have teachers that come in and they know the Google Suite and they have it all kind of dialed in, and then we have teachers that are amazing teachers but that need some technology support. So we found that the best way to do that is more self-paced. We have instructional coaches that attend, and then they help facilitate table conversations. So again, they have that go-to person. And then we have differentiated support for our special education teachers, as I said.
So at the elementary, one of the other big, obviously, focus areas, and we've talked with this board a little bit about this in previous board meetings, but we've been really trying to focus on that, implementing and refining of evidence-based structured literacy practices. It's a monumental lift and task and shift at our primary grade. And again, I can't speak enough to how hard our teachers have worked on making this shift. And so last year, you can see the support we worked on in K1, and we did start to roll in our second grade teachers and MLL teachers into this work starting last year and continuing into this year. Also, our special education teachers, there's been a lot of really great work in that with our special education teachers around the science of reading, on monthly visits from a couple of our experts in the special ed realm. And then we also have a large group of our teachers enrolled in letters training through the state of Minnesota. It's a grant-funded training that really looks at structured literacy practices and how to implement them regardless of what curricular resources you have. So a lot of really good work in that setting. At the elementary, the other big focus area has been around science. We've done that through our science leadership team, which is approximately 20 to 30 teachers. Over the last year and a half, we've been working on looking at the new science standards, reviewing our current materials, and then looking at what are the needs we have. We do have early implementers that are currently doing right now, and I was in a classroom today at Bamber Valley around this Amplify Science unit, and it was fantastic. Students were trying to figure out how do traits and genes affect what something looks like. And they had clay, and we were working with clay today, and I got to work with a great third grader, Leo, on making our own clay-based model of how traits interact and what that looks like. So that was a blast.
Right, at the secondary level, grades 6 through 8, we've been working on the Amplify curriculum. So in grade 6 last year, we spent a lot of time just with monthly meetings, looking at evidence-based practices, looking at what's working with the curriculum, what adjustments might we have to make, and then just sharing resources. And so our 6th grade teachers are on year 2 with that curriculum. They're implementing something called Flextensions this year, which is more of the lab science, that kind of thing. So after every unit, there's a Flextension. And then 7th and 8th grade, we really worked hard on unpacking the new standards. So what are the standards asking us to do? And implementation of some open SciEd units. So there's one called Metabolic Reactions. It really focuses on a storyline and then trying to figure out, like, why is this happening? So in 7th grade, it's metabolic reactions, and in 8th grade, there's one called chemical reactions. So very inquiry-based, driven by student questions and student interest. And so we just finished, actually, right before this meeting with the 8th grade group, looking at doing some bundling of standards. So that's been a big focus area for us, is science. And then at the high school level, we're working on the environmental science course development. So this course will roll out in 24-25. And we're right now just really working on what are the shifts with the new standards. Last year we unpacked the standards. We developed prioritized learnings for the course. So what are the most important learnings that we want the students to have? And then we focused on a course outline. So we'll continue development this year and into next year, and then implement that in 24-25. And that is based on new standards that are required for our high school students in earth and space science areas. Then at the 6 through 12 level, one of the big focus areas was writing. We've had many conversations over the years about how do we make sure we have better vertical alignment so that we know what we're expecting of our students in terms of writing, and then how do we really align that work so that we're giving really quality feedback to students and helping the students give feedback to one another. So there's a committee that has worked, it's been both high school and middle school teachers, and they've really worked to align the writing skills. And then they have a diagnostic assessment that they give at the beginning of the year. They look at that writing assessment, and then they have the students look at, okay, where am I at? How am I doing? There's now a common rubric, which is really exciting, so you can hear students actually talking about evidence and commentary. And the students are starting to be able to self-evaluate. So we had teachers this year practice a little bit with Screencastify, where the student actually looked at their writing and then did a self-evaluation video saying, here's where I think I'm strong and here's where I think I need to improve. So we're seeing a lot of momentum and growth in this just because we have had that time to really align the writing skills, and then students are really clear on what does really good writing look like.
So one of the other big areas last year was around instructional technology, and with the leadership of Laura Willis, one of our instructional technology specialists last year, she was able to get into over 200 classrooms and collect data on how are we doing around our use of technology in the classroom and how are we using it to engage our students. And she got great data from that process and used that data to pull a team together to work on what would technology strategic plan work look like. And one thing that came out of that work was this tech demo classrooms. And what this is our RPS teachers talking about a tool that they use, a technology tool that they use to engage students or to increase student voice or increase opportunities to collaborate. And it's the teacher sharing, and actually it's also students sharing why they like the tool. So this website was curated with all of these great teacher leaders around the district sharing how they use these. There's even one in a first grade classroom about how we use Jamboards to show our thinking. So it's a great resource that came out of that work. One final piece to mention is we also have this on-demand PD. This really started probably in the middle of the pandemic work, and this site is accessible for all teachers in RPS, and these asynchronous courses are arranged through the licensure area needs that teachers are looking for. We're always on the lookout to add more to this site. Typically, they are teachers in RPS creating some of the PD as well to support these licensure areas. So it's a great resource that we want to continue to build and grow.
So a few plans moving forward. We really want to think about staff development being aligned to the areas of the strategic plan. So as you know, we have these waves or groups that are working right now. And so we're really thinking about how do we make sure that all of the staff development that we're offering aligns to those key areas. Potential focus areas include student-centered deeper learning. So Peter and I are working with a group to think about what does that framework look like for deeper learning, and then how might we provide professional development in those areas. We see continued work in the science of reading and in literacy in general, really probably focusing on that 3, 4, 5 and also the secondary level. We'll be doing some hard work around the new English language arts standards. We've just launched that team, about 50-ish or so teacher leaders, district leaders, people from early childhood all the way to 12th grade are really looking at those new standards. And so that will be work that we'll see into the future. And then just the integration of social emotional skills into the development of our academic knowledge and skills. We know they're not separate, and we need to be thinking about integration and how do we make sure that all of our students are in classrooms where they see that integrated. And then finally, continuing work on the new science standards. So as you can see, we'll be spending some time on that over the next few years. So I think we'll open it up to your questions.
Mr. Barlow.
Okay, well, first of all, Dr. Abamu, thank you. You know, Office of Academics, this is great in terms of how this is occurring. Thank you, principals and special assignment. I did look at, and thank you for including that embedded link to engage. I did click on that, and I found it quite interesting, just some language presented, which I thought was so insightful. Two of them, learning new and relevant content, you know, allowing students, it's not just teaching the same old, but learning new and relevant content. I found that quite interesting. And then doing something with their learning, realizing that it's more than just, you know, taking a test and doing well on it, but what did you learn? And so, you know, thank you for that link there. And I see great value. I started to listen to a podcast that delved into some aspects of this, but ran out of time. But I did want to just simply note that I think that your presentation tonight was quite insightful. It provides us, for me, and I'm sure my peers, somewhat of a appetite to look forward to what you will continue to provide and the good things that you will share, because again, you're setting us in a position to accomplish the things that we believe that our students can excel, that with the right supports for our staff, they will continue to evolve into not just good educators, but great educators. And this will become the district that everyone else is leaving to be a part of. So thank you for what you're doing.
Ms. Nathan.
So seeing all of this work, I'm sure a lot of people are probably thinking, when does this happen if our teachers have to be in the classroom teaching our students every day? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So that's been a little bit of a challenge, especially because, you know, it's been, we don't have lots and lots of subs. We're still looking for more. So we've been doing most of our work after school. So teachers come around 3:30, 3:45. If we have elementary teachers, we start at about 4:15. And then they'll spend a couple of hours with us. So with the English Language Arts group, that's the time period. We have been able to bring some groups together, and Peter can maybe talk about the Lit Lab, which is a new model that we're trying out.
Yeah, that's, I think, one of the challenges we spoke to this board about in the last winter when we did updates on our curricular areas, is really the time in order to pull our teachers together, because really it's about getting them together, and then that's where the great work happens. So that's consistently a struggle, is that time, and coming after school, while it's great, and we certainly want to support our teachers in that, but it's also at the end of the school day. That's hard. But one of the things we're doing at the elementary is this literacy lab, and it is during the school day. It's a half day during the school day that we our K1 and 2 teachers are coming to Overland Elementary and doing some learning as a smaller group together, which is a great opportunity. Some great conversations are happening, and then figuring out, well, how do we duplicate that or for the rest of our teachers? So I think it's something that when we're looking at the strategic plan and we're thinking about calendars and things like that, we would need to continually put that at the forefront of how do we ensure that we're getting time in order to do this work.
And we do have professional development days set aside. So sometimes it can be easy to say, oh, maybe we don't need those, but we really count on those days to be able to have that deeper conversation, more connected time. So our next one is February. Our teachers will have one tomorrow at the secondary level, which is site directed, but those are really important to us for being able to deepen this work. So supporting that is awesome as well.
Other questions? Ms. Workman.
I would just like to make a comment. I had the opportunity to observe one of those labs with your kindergarten teachers a few weeks ago, and I was really impressed with how thorough it was and how it made logical sense. And one of the things I remember the most was, I think it was the M sound, and different ways of, can you say this word without doing X, Y, and Z? And I found myself, doing that, and it's like, yeah, okay. So I see that as very intentional. So you said this is something that you would like all of our teachers to be able to have this experience. How does that fit in generally with teaching reading, say, K through 3?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now the structure is that our literacy leaders from K1 and 2 then head back and they have that conversation at their building level PLC. And then through that, I'm also communicate with the building leaders about, hey, this is the key learning that happened. These are the key questions you'll want to ask your team about to figure out better ways to support. And we also do some pre-teaching with our instructional coaches every month so they can support those conversations at the site as well. The barrier this year was we couldn't pull everybody out. We're thinking about how that structure might be possible going forward, but we're still in the early stages of planning that.
And then, if I may, with a follow-up. So at some point, will there be some kind of an evaluation to find out if this work is really having the intended consequences that you want in terms of students and developing reading? And, when might that, how far down the road might that
that's
be?
certainly built into I think, Dr. Ruck called it the grid. I think that's where we're going to be looking at that data pretty closely on, okay, are we making movement around our core tier 1 instruction and literacy, and using those benchmarks set in the strategic plan to measure how we're doing. Certainly.
Thank you. Good
Thank
work.
you so much. Actually, Heather, you might want to remain.
I think I might be up
Yeah.
next, but Peter's going to help get my slides.
Okay.
And so we are at 7.01, summary of students accessing high school and college credit. Dr. Piquel.
Dr. Marvin and directors of the board, another requirement in policy is that the board periodically, I believe annually, receive an update on our students who are earning credit in a post-secondary course while they're in high school, which also is a major priority of our strategic plan. So we will be building a lot on what Heather is going to describe for us now has happened to date as we are looking to have a comprehensive post-secondary education and career readiness strategy for all RPS students. I would note that on the consent agenda tonight, the board earlier approved a payment of the essentially tuition expenses to our largest post-secondary partner, Rochester Community and Technical College, and we're really grateful to them for their partnership, and we are going to be leaning into further collaboration with them going forward as well. So that's one of the reasons why the executive committee put this update on the agenda tonight, because you took action earlier on an important piece of the work. So Heather, thank you.
Right. So I'm going to start with concurrent enrollment, and I'm going to do just a little bit of talking about the definition of each of these types of credit, because it gets to be a little complicated at the secondary level because there's lots of ways that our students can earn credit. So concurrent enrollment is where it's taught by a college-approved high school teacher at one of our high schools or the ALC. But the students actually stay on campus at one of our high schools, our ALC. So the teacher has to be certified. Usually that's a master's in a content area or 22 credits. So that's one of the pieces that we're kind of working on, is how do we get more teachers to be able to be certified? Because many of our students would like to stay on campus at our high schools, but they do want that opportunity to earn credit. So 7% of our juniors and seniors took at least one concurrent enrollment course. So the total number taking one or more was 204. And then I just calculated the tuition dollars saved. And this is low on the low end because it's based on the RCTC tuition rate. So if students went somewhere else, it might be higher in terms of what they might save. And I also didn't calculate books and parking fees and things like that. But about $208,865 for our students that are taking concurrent enrollment courses. Then we have advanced placement, and as you know, advanced placement's been a big feature of Rochester Public Schools for many years. This is where students can earn college credit based on their performance on AP examinations. So they take the AP course, and then they take the AP exam. These courses are also taught by our high school teachers, and they're offered at our comprehensive high schools. The teachers get some training through AP, and 14% of our students registered for an advanced placement course, and thank goodness, Julie was looking really carefully at these numbers, and so I was able to look. It should actually be 704 total students. That's an error. I had grabbed the total number of students, but it's 704 total students took an advanced placement course. So that's a big piece of our college credit acquiring. The one thing with AP is you don't know necessarily how much credit they will get until you see how they do on the exam, and then it depends on what institution they're going to. But many institutions really look favorably on AP courses because they know that the rigor is high and our teachers have a lot of training. And then the final way that students can earn credit is through post-secondary enrollment, or PSEO. So you probably heard about this quite a bit. This is where students actually go to RCTC and they take the course from a college instructor at the RCTC campus. So 11% of our juniors and seniors took at least one PSEO course. So that was 358 students enrolled, and about little over $1 million saved in tuition based on the RCTC tuition rate. So 3 different ways that our students are earning college credit. We know that if they go into college with credit, they're more likely to be successful at the college level, even if it's 1 credit. We have some students that are taking our first year experience class, and they get 1 credit, and they can just start to think about, oh, college is possible for me. I can think about this. Or post-secondary training. It doesn't necessarily even have to be college, but it gets them thinking that way. So just a quick update on those 3 ways that our students can earn credit, and any questions that you might have.
I have one quick one. We were talking about this the other day, and Heather, as you said, I think it's amazing when students take these classes, they start thinking about themselves differently. I can do this work, college level work, and I can do college work. So rather than I'm going to finish high school and then be done with it, it really changes, I think, their trajectory in terms of their own feeling of self-worth and what their plans might be. How about our students at CTEC when they are taking high school students who are taking courses at CTEC? That's sort of post-secondary too, isn't it?
Yes, so CTEC has a couple different options. So some of our CTEC courses are called articulated credit. So basically that means that the student's taking the course and then it will be waived when they get into a program at RCTC. So we have articulation agreements with RCTC. We have to look at them, I think it's every 3 years, to make sure that there's good alignment. And then the students have some waived credit. So they don't necessarily get it on their transcript, but then when they enroll, then they'll see that they won't have to take as many courses. Then we also have some that are concurrent enrollment. So an example might be our JavaScript course. We used to have it, we just changed it now because our teacher certification changed. But that would be one where the students would be able to take a course. If the teacher was certified, they would get the credit. So we kind of have a combination of our of those courses at CTEC.
Thank you. Ms. Workman.
Yeah, I know that 10th graders can take PSEO classes as well. Do we have very many 10th graders who are doing this?
We don't have many 10th graders. I could get that number for you for sure, but it is definitely more juniors than seniors.
one of the reasons I ask is one of the resolutions that's coming before the delegate assembly in a couple of weeks has to do with how the, for example, RCTC, what kind of reporting they would be doing to parents and to their home school to make sure that students were on track. And the observation is that an awful lot of 10th graders, even though they might be accelerated academically, are still lacking some of the skills that they need in order to be successful. So I was just curious as to what kind of an impact this might be having on our students, but it sounds like it's a fairly small number.
Yeah, it's less, definitely less 10th graders than juniors and seniors, but I can find
Okay.
out how many do we have that are 10th graders that are
That would be great.
accessing
I'd
that.
appreciate that. Thank you.
And our PSEO students do get some support. We have a position called a PSEO advisor. And so that person provides support with just planning ahead, thinking through, what are the requirements? What are they thinking about? Just helping them kind of envision where do they want to go and what they might want to sign up for. So they do get some support that way. And then we also have we have CTAs or advisors that come to the high school, and then they talk a little bit about placement, they talk a little bit about study skills, and so we do have a little bit more support because we have a very strong partnership with RCTC to make sure we have kind of a bridge between RPS and RCTC.
Ms. Nathan?
So a few questions. PSEO, traditionally, we hear all about RCTC, but are there other institutions that our students are taking PSEO in? And
Not PSEO that I can think of. We do have other institutions that we partner with for concurrent enrollment. So for concurrent enrollment, we have University of Minnesota, College in the Schools. So we have some courses. We have a psychology course that's taught out at CTEC. Mr. Lundy teaches it. He's retired, but semi-retired, and he's still teaching that course. So that's a CIS psychology course. We also partner with Riverland. So we have a speech course at John Marshall High School through Riverland, and we have an ag course through Riverland. So our philosophy has been, how do we get our students the most opportunity? So we've really looked at, if there's an institution that's able to provide support for our students and our teachers are able to be qualified, then we'll really look at trying to develop that portfolio.
another one, go ahead. Do we consider Project Lead the Way post-secondary?
We
in
do
this
have
data?
it, yes, we do have it in our, because students can, if they take the assessment and pay for the credit, you have to do a little bit of paperwork, but we do have it in our guide under our post-secondary and concurrent enrollment and those options, because they do get a credit. They just have to follow up, and I think that's an area we need to work on, is helping students know once they've taken the assessment to follow up to be able to purchase the credit.
So as we go forward and measure our post-secondary work, would it be a good idea to measure that data for Project Lead the Way as well?
Ms. Amundson? Oh, sorry.
I just have one more.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Kathy.
Speaking of data, I thought I remembered in the past that the AP, we could access AP data on how many of our kids took the exams and how many of them scored above a
with his peers during the regular school day and was still able to enter college as a junior. So that's an incredible service, and it speaks to the really high levels of academic opportunity that we offer here in Rochester Public Schools.
And Chair Marvin, building on that, if anybody's watching tonight and they don't want to miss information about PSEO or any of these opportunities, where would you tell them to look or listen?
We have a PSEO night coming up. I believe it's February 16th. So it's a little ways away, but there'll be a flyer our communications team is working on, and it will also be live streamed. So families can go to that. They could also email me if they were interested in more information. And then we have pages in our course registration guide. So there's a full page and a half, I think now, with concurrent enrollment, articulated credit, information about PSEO, so that they can see all of these options. Then we're working with communications as well to just think about how do we market this and how do we make sure that all of our families know about all these opportunities. Thanks for the question.
Any other questions? Ms. Woolman, thank you.
Thank you.
7.02 referendum update, Century Pool and secure entries. Dr. Piquel.
Directors of the board, some of us will appreciate that there is a certain poetic justice in Scott Sherden's final presentation to this board being on the Century swimming pool. It is a beautiful project. It has been a challenging project. And so I am pleased to ask Scott to come up and give an update on that. We're also going to share an update on the very important work that we've done in making sure all of our entries to our schools are safe and secure. So, Scott.
Thank you, Lauren.
Should we do this one final?
We have to.
I figured. Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
For the final time. This is my 26th referendum update.
But
I know
who's
you were-
counting, right, Scott?
Yeah, but who's counting? 26th and final. Once again, Kian Knutson. And I have the wrong remote too. Sorry. It is time for me to go, isn't it? Kian Knutson from, Kian McWaters from Knutson.
He is Knutson.
He is Knutson, kind of, but he put together this presentation. This is pretty much strictly related to the Century Pool, but then there's a budget update at the end. This is the coming next 6 weeks, but actually this timeline has moved up considerably. We've already filled the pool, and we're working on getting it commissioned starting not this week, but it'll be next week. We had hoped to have this completed before I left on the 30th, and they did their darndest to get it to go, but there's just some hiccups with getting it commissioned that took a little longer than they had hoped. But they do hope to have it ready for the ribbon cutting, which I believe is the first week of December, and then they hope to have a meet the following day after the ribbon cutting, actually. This is, now if you were walking toward the north from the main entrance, you have the cafeteria on your left, and then you have the north cafeteria further on your left. This is right at the end of the original building. This used to be just open space. The gym doors are on the right, that used to be exit doors that would exit outside, but now they go into the gym. But this is the corridor that was built. The double blue doors that you see kind of on the left there, those are the doors that lead into the pool itself. If you keep going down the hallway, then it leads down to the locker rooms. Per code, again, we had to build a storm shelter that would hold the number of people that potentially could be at the swim meet, and so we were a little creative in how we did that. We built the storm shelter that included the locker rooms and then a staging area on the north end of the pool, which would accommodate all the people that in case of a storm. This is a view of the bleachers, holds about 350 up to possibly 400 spectators that have a view over the pool. This is another picture of the hallway. And these are the changing areas, shower areas. This is the ADA area, changing area, shower area. And then this is a picture of the pool with the water in it. And this is from the northwest corner looking to the southeast. So it's toward where the school actually is. You notice the scoreboard is up. They have the lift there. They're still putting in some lighting. And then you'll notice the sheeting that's on the floor that's protecting the tile. They're still doing some tile, but then there's the blue robot that's there that's starting to clean the pool. The pool isn't ready to dip your toe in yet. It was pretty icy when they first put it in there, but once they get it commissioned and get the heater going, it'll heat up fairly quickly. Now this is a view from up in the stands looking to the southwest. You notice that big white thing across the middle? That's what's called the bulkhead. And that makes it the pool a lot more creative to be able to use it. That's a movable piece. You can put starting blocks on it so that the swimmers can go to the right there and practice while the divers with the diving boards, which will be in the deep end on the left side just under the scoreboards, while the divers can practice. And that can move. You pump it up with air and then you move it and then you let the air out and it sits in certain areas along the pool. So it's the only one that we have in all of our pools. And as you know, this was a stretch pool as well. So it's more than a 25-yard pool. The update on the budget is Knutson's trying to close out all the budgets. Overland is pretty well complete. We still have a budget for extension of the distributed antenna systems within Overland, and that's the thing that improves the 800 megahertz radio reception for emergency responders. It improves the district radios, and then it also improves the cell phone use for the employees that are in the buildings. Right now, partial, just the 800 megahertz in the radio systems at Overland. We're adding the cell phone use next summer. We're doing all three of those items in all the brand new schools next summer as well. The final budget that you see here is, you'll notice that after all is said and done, which includes all the interest from the referendum dollars, the original amount was $180,400,000, and then you add in the interest that was earned on those dollars over the 2.5, 3 years that we're here. After all is said and done, we're at 27,000 left. It's pretty good when you think about it, 180 million. There are some wiggle room in here. It depends what you decide to do in the future regarding the future land purchase and what the future intent is of the middle schools. We have dollars in the middle school portion of this to decommission those pools if the board continues to decide to do that. And then we have the 1.4 million for a future land purchase as well if the board decides to do that as well. But that gives you a little wiggle room that you can reappropriate those dollars as you see fit in the future. And that would be it.
I kind of hate to have this end, Scott, the whole pool thing, because it's been such a experience, hasn't it?
It has. It's a beautiful pool.
It's gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous pool. Yeah.
Are you going to get to be the first person who dives in?
I will not be here for
You
that.
have
Use your life
you
ring.
have
Yeah,
you have a
flotation
You have a life
device,
ring.
so-
lifesaver.
I do have a life ring. That's,
Yeah.
You might need it if I do go.
Any questions for Scott? Thank you, Scott. Julie?
Yeah, I would just like to express my appreciation for all the presentations you've had the joy of doing before the board these last 8 years. And I've always found them to be well-researched, very informative, and I tried to get questions to you ahead of time when I had some, but your response was always just great, and I really appreciate that. So thank you and good luck with your life ring in Wisconsin.
Thank you, Director Work. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Scott.
Take care.
7.03, District's Energy Saving Initiative with Synergistic. Dr. Piquel.
Dr. Marvin, directors of the board, it is now my privilege to actually, based upon the action you took on the consent agenda, recognize John Carlson by his new title, which is Chief Administrative Officer of Rochester Public Schools, which I am grateful to him for assuming. John is assuming many of the responsibilities that, as we've said many times tonight, Scott Sherden has so ably borne, and that we'll be putting in place other shifts and changes as the work goes forward under John's leadership. So this is a chance for us to hear about one of the money and energy saving initiatives that we've had John leading in his previous role, which will absolutely be continuing. So John.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Piquel and board members. It's my pleasure to introduce Adam Hansen from Synergistic. Adam was one of our employees at the school district prior to us entering into a relationship with Synergistic to go down the path of trying to conserve energy and ultimately save dollars for the school district. So this partnership's been going on for a little over 4 years at this point, and Adam's going to give you an annual update here.
All right, thanks, John, and thank you, board members and Dr. Piquel. I'm excited to share an update of 4 years and 3 months with the program now. I'm going to go over some numbers and some successes that we've had through those first 4 years. Just a little brief overview for the energy program objectives. Number one concern is always comfort and optimization. So John is the one that will text me when you guys are a little warm or a little cold in here. I can make the adjustments and just making sure, especially when the buildings are occupied, that everybody's comfortable. And if there needs to be further action done, I can use tools that I have with Synergistic or make some programming changes or work closely with the programming company, Poppy. So then also with that comes reduced utility, and that equals lower cost. So I'll get into a little bit of the savings that we've had so far, and then finally I'll go through these a little bit more in depth, but culture, sustainability through education. So this is, we compare the year prior to us being in partnership with the district as our base year. So this was the prices of electricity and natural gas per unit the 1 year prior to August of 2018 when we first partnered. So you can see the increase in electricity is up almost 16%, and then the big one is natural gas, which is almost up to 50% per unit. This is Minnesota, so we're gonna always have to use natural gas in the winter. It's hard to reduce it at times, but working with Poppy and some of our engineers and some district staff, we're able to implement some boiler offsets at roughly 2/3 of the building. So what that does is reduce the supply temperature overnight and when the buildings are unoccupied and won't need the heat. And that's overnight and over the weekends and over setbacks. So long setbacks coming up here for the 4-day weekend with Thanksgiving and then the winter break. So we try to do as much as we can with natural gas, but we can't just shut off the heat, unfortunately. We'll go into the numbers here. 3.17 million has been avoided in the 4 years and 2 months is what we have the data up to through September. So this measures the costs of energy not used by the district if you were to operate the way things were operating before we were here in August of 2018, excuse me. And I was just going to go through quickly the yearly cost avoidance. So performance year 1 and 2 were pretty normal years, and then when we got into the pandemic in year 3, so you can see that number is up, and we were able to reduce schedules greatly, especially some of the secondary sites and when the schools were completely shut down and there was barely any staff and obviously no students in there. And then you can see in year 4, this was a little down from our numbers previously, but this is what we had to implement, some flushes in the schools to meet with ASHRAE and CDC guidelines. So instead of, focusing on savings at that point, we were worried about healthier buildings, safe buildings, make sure you're getting 3 air changes prior to occupancy of the students. So you can see the first couple months in our year 5, and we're looking higher than we've ever been before. We're able to verify that we're getting 3 air changes, and we have equipment that we've had consultants come in and verify that you're getting that prior to occupancy for students and staff. So I look forward to a full year of getting back to kind of normal building operations and see what those numbers look like. Then the energy use intensity. So I'm not going to get too deep into this, but pretty much what this is the amount of natural gas and electricity combined divided by the square foot of the district. So you can see we started off roughly 72 in the base year, and now we're down to 63. So this is the energy that's not used since the beginning of the program, and it would be enough to run all the elementary and middle schools for 16 months. So wow. It's pretty impressive. And then just to put it in different terms here, environmental impact would be like reducing the output of almost 16,000 metric tons of CO2. And it'd be equivalent to removing almost 3,500 cars off the road, or also planting and growing 262,000 trees for 10 years. And then with the software that our company uses and I use on a daily basis is GreenX. We're able to track audits in all the buildings, whether it's during occupied times, unoccupied when students or staff aren't there, or maybe just a few custodians, and then obviously over weekends when no one's in the building, when I do a lot of my audits, and especially over setbacks, summer setbacks, winter setbacks, and then this 4-day weekend here coming up.
I went on an audit once with Adam, and we ended up on the roof at Hoover Elementary, and that was the last audit I've been on.
But I want to make sure that unoccupied 67% number is known, because that's when nobody else is in the buildings. No one else would be looking to see if air handlers or exhaust fans or anything is running, especially over long breaks. There's not going to be district staff in the buildings on Thursday or Friday, and I'll be out there doing my audits and making sure everything's operating according to what was scheduled in our building automation system. So, and then lastly, I just wanted to recognize the 15 buildings that received Energy Star certification for 2022. You can see the buildings on there, and we'll be giving out plaques and some stickers that can go on the buildings to make sure everybody knows that they're Energy Star certified. And I also wanted to bring up too that Rochester Public Schools has the most Energy Star certified K-12 buildings of any school district in Minnesota. So that's impressive. Whew. Now again, I'm sorry, go back to this one. And there's 4 more of the new buildings that didn't have enough data over the last year to get in. So I wouldn't see any reason why those wouldn't get it the next time that we conduct our Energy Star audits. So that's 19 out of 24 that would qualify. There's 5 buildings that we're going to work on reducing EUI, and I think that will come with removing some of those flushes that we had over COVID. And there's also 9 buildings that just will never qualify, like Addison. You have to have a certain amount of K through 12 students occupying the building. So out of the 24, we should easily get 19 or 20, and like I said, we'll continue to work to get those other 5 in there. And also, before we go anywhere, I wanted to give this to John, and this will be going out to all of the principals at each building for their Energy Star recognition. Like I said before, too, with all the stickers that will go on the front doors or whatever. But John, and I don't know if we'll discuss it later, but all the principals will, each building that received one will get one of these. So
we plan to, at our December leadership meeting, present one of these to each of the principals on that list on the previous slide. So.
All right, and then lastly, I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity, and school board for implementing the program. I like it because it gave me a job. I appreciate the extension too, so I can continue to work in this role. And community, maintenance staff, custodians. I work daily with custodians, and especially with how we work and schedule for events and athletics or any community education events. Work closely with them to make sure that we're only running things when things are occupied and then setting them back when they're not. And then I want to give a big thank you to the office managers who I work with over the setback periods, because there's 33 buildings, and trying to make sure that they get heat when everything's set back in a building when no one else is in there. Takes a lot of work to manage that and get everything organized. So I think that's all we have. If you have any questions for us.
Any questions?
I just had one. So the work that you're doing, you're obviously coming into our buildings, doing an audit. Are you at the front end of when we're creating buildings or adjusting space? Like, do you go in and work with facilities and decide, make recommendations, like this would be the better option for you if you chose this as part of, this building update?
Very minimally so far, I guess. If they do have certain questions, and we have engineers and consultants that are well-versed in boilers, mechanics, and other things, but not as much as you would think, I guess.
I would say, though, on that, as we were building these 4 new buildings in the new pool, we were definitely energy conscious, and so the architects and engineers that were hired through LHB and their subcontractors, that was a high focus for them at our direction to make sure they built efficient buildings.
I guess in my mind, would it also not make sense, though, to have those two things happen at the same time, or to have those two groups of people meet each other so that you're able to inform them? And I recognize that they probably have some level of expertise in that too, but it's a question some of our educators and some of our students who are very much invested in becoming environmentalists have, are we doing this up front in the same way that we're doing it on the back end, like after the building is already in existence and utilizing energy? So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
I'm never going to win a state award, but Adam's boss wants to take a picture of me holding this, so if we could just pause for 3 seconds and turn around and have a picture.
Awesome.
And he said you specifically, huh, John?
Very emotional. I say that out loud.
No, Jackie.
Okay. 8.01, under prep for action, a policy committee meeting recommendations, and our policy committee has been working relentlessly, 33 policy recommendations, plus the ones in the consent agenda. Policy committee.
Policy committee. We are going to reach our goal by the end of this year to be on target with our 3-year review. And I just want to thank the policy committee, the cabinet. We tripled up on policy committee meetings in October so that we could stay on schedule. So couldn't do it without, especially the cabinet doing their comprehensive reviews and bringing recommendations. So it's very much appreciated. Okay, so I'm going to start with policy 20306, consent agendas. The purpose of this policy is to allow the use of a consent agenda. We updated the process so that if a school board member removes the human resource actions from the consent agenda for separate consideration, we included the process for how we would then move into closed session because it was related to a personnel issue. Policy 206, public participation in school board meetings, complaints about persons at school board meetings, and data privacy considerations, and its associated procedure 206A. The purpose of the policy is to provide procedures to assure open and orderly public discussion, as well as to protect the due process and privacy rights of individuals under the law. There was a recent change in statute and an update in MSBA model policy to remove address from the information that we require from speakers who are signing up for comments to the board. And policy 207, the school board recognizes the importance of obtaining public input on matters properly before the school board during a public hearing. The purpose of this policy is to establish procedures to efficiently receive public input, and there were clarity of language changes from MSBA model policy.
And policy 208, which is development, adoption, and implementation of policies. The purpose is to emphasize the importance of the policy-making role of the school board and to provide the means for it to be an ongoing effort. So the updates are based on MSBA model policy with the list of policies to be reviewed annually and revision of procedure review cycle for efficiency and consistency with policy 305. Policy 210, the conflict of interest, school board meetings. The purpose is to observe state statutes regarding conflict of interest and to engage in district business activities in a fashion designed to avoid any conflict of interest or appearance of impropriety. And again, MSBA model and policy stipulated the increase amount school board members can earn annually while employed by or under contract with the district to $20,000 per legislative action last session. Policy 301, school district administration. The purpose of this policy is to clarify the role of the school district administration and its relationship with the school board. And there were just minor updates from MSBA model policy.
Policy 305 is to clarify the responsibility of the school administration for implementation of school district policy. And we had updates from the MSBA model policy and the revision of the procedure review cycle for efficiency and consistency with policy 208. Policy 401.01, employee personnel recruitment and hiring. This is a policy that only Rochester Public Schools has. The language here is included in other MSBA model policies and current RPS policies, so this policy is recommended to be retired. Along with the policy then is the procedure that goes with it, procedure 401.1A. There's a change in policy 403, discipline, suspension, and dismissal of school district employees. The purpose of this policy is to achieve effective operation of the school district's programs through the cooperation of all employees under a system of policies and rules applied fairly and uniformly. The updates to this policy were from the MSBA model policy and addition of references to new procedure. So the procedure that goes along with that, 403A, does identify the process to address discipline issues of employees.
Policy 407 was reviewed as part of the 3-year policy review, and there were no changes recommended. Policy 408, subpoena of a school district employee. The purpose of this policy is to protect the privacy rights of school district employees and students under both state and federal law when requested to testify or provide educational records for judicial or administrative proceedings. Updates came from MSBA model policy, specifically to statutory references and minor clarifying language. Policy 412, expense reimbursement. The purpose of this policy is to identify school district business expenses that involve initial payment by an employee and qualify for reimbursement, and specify the manner by which employee seeks reimbursement. It was an update to clarify the policy for approval of board chair reimbursement, that those reimbursements be approved by the vice chair, and minor language corrections. Procedure 412A, we updated the relevant form to remove reviewed revised dates. Policy 413 was reviewed as part of our annual review of this policy, and there were no changes recommended. We did have a change in procedure 413A.1, the harassment and violence report form. We saw some format issues with word spacings and font, so there were no content changes, just format changes.
So policy 414, which is mandated reporting of child neglect or physical or sexual abuse. The purpose of the policy is to make clear the statutory requirements of school personnel to report suspected child neglect or physical or sexual abuse, and those changes were just MSBA model policy updates. The associated procedure 414A.1, which is maltreatment of students reporting form for Rochester Public Schools, and we just updated the form language to match the changes in policy. Policy 510, student activities, whose purpose is to impart to students, employees, and the community of the school district's policy related to the student activity program. The updates just clarify the policy related to extracurricular independent providers. And then policy 511, which is school-sponsored fundraising, and the purpose is to address school-sponsored fundraising efforts such as athletics, teams, clubs, or classroom projects. And the updates were just to the names of the responsible departments and references to procedures. And a change to the accompanying procedure 511A, which updates to reference and include relevant forms and procedure, but a recommendation to retire procedure 511A.1 and 511A.2, which are fundraising approval and record forms, and those forms were just moved to 511A.
We're going to have a test on that right now. Continuing with policy 520, student surveys. Occasionally, the school district utilizes surveys to obtain student opinions and information about students. The purpose of this policy is to establish the parameters of information that may be sought in student surveys. And we did receive some updates from the Minnesota School Board Association model policy and clarification of related procedures. So the following 5 procedures were updated with flow charts and sample surveys, and 520A.5 information was included in procedures 520A.1 and 520.01A.
Think of it like, organizing your closet. All the same stuff is there. It's just a lot prettier now.
Speak for yourself. Your own closet. Okay, policy 520.01, human subjects research. The school district partners with external organizations to conduct research and also conducts research internally. Often, this research involves interacting with students, teachers, and other stakeholders. This policy establishes basic guidelines for conducting human subjects research. This, again, is a Rochester Public Schools only policy. The updates clarify the requirements and responsibilities associated with review and approval of research requests. And then finally, we have new procedure 520.01A to go along with the previous policy, which creates the process and steps and forms to implement that policy.
Thank you. Any questions for the policy committee?
I also, Kathy thanked everybody, so I want to thank her back because she does an amazing amount of work and has skills uniquely suited to this job.
Yes, she does. Question, policy committee, are you planning on putting these on upcoming agendas and treating them all as one unit?
Yes.
On the consent agenda?
Yes.
Policies
So,
and procedures?
One more briefing and then on the consent agenda.
For both policies?
both,
Okay, good enough. Thank you. No more questions or comments? All right, thanks again. 9.01, under action, approval of revised community budget advisory committee charge statement. Dr. Piquel.
Madam Chair, Directors of the Board, I'm going to try and give a brief overview of this requested change. John Carlson will be responsible for working with this committee, and so if there are questions, John certainly could join us, but we hope it's relatively straightforward. As the board knows, community engagement is a major priority of our new strategic plan, and one new vehicle for community engagement is the creation of a standing committee advisory to both the board and the superintendent on our financial affairs. And we had the policy committee of the board, and in particular particular, I want to thank Directors Workman and Amundsen, put together a scope of work for this new committee that I'm very excited about. I think it's going to fill a major, major need, which is very much on all of our minds as we go into budget season. As we began taking the initial charge to the committee, we also began working with Amy Ike in her new capacity and leading our effort to be systemic in our approach to community partnerships. And we came to the conclusion that kind of a come one, come all open invitation to this committee was not likely to get the unique mix of both diverse perspective and expertise or interest in financial affairs that this committee really needs. I mean, you need to be willing to kind of nerd out with John on the numbers, not necessarily being an accountant or an MBA, though we are going to welcome that expertise, but definitely people who really have an interest in getting the details right. And so the recommendation we're bringing before you, I think, is entirely in keeping with the board's initial intent for this committee, but it actually, rather than sort of soliciting issuing an open invitation to serve on the committee, we would go to the set of community organizations that are listed in the resolution to request, I think even a bit beyond invite, request that they appoint someone affiliated with their organization to serve in this capacity, advising the district on its financial affairs. If we were unable to fill one of those slots, that slot would become an open slot that someone from the community could apply to fill. We do continue to have open slots for parents, for students. There will always be 2 board members on the committee as well. Final tweak is we have somewhat shortened the previous name to Committee Budget Advisory Committee, which I'm afraid is likely to be known as CBAC. We have suggested that rather than meeting 6 times a year, the core committee meet 4 times a year. That was the result of some feedback that we got from early people we talked to about participation on the committee. Should this committee elect to have subcommittees, those folks might meet more often, but the commitment is going to be for quarterly meetings. So with that, we would request that the board approve this revised charge to the committee, and if you choose to do so, we are going to go into high gear recruiting prospective members so that we can have this committee up and running, though certainly still with a learning curve, but up and running as we begin development of the school district budget in 2023.
Questions, concerns, comments?
I just had one question. So for item 3, where it says if one of the local represented organizations is unable to appoint someone that the spot can be filled, are we looking for someone from that specific community or community adjacent, or is it just anybody?
I think we would certainly try and have someone from that community, but it would be, we'd fill the slot. It'd be open, but we would be seeking to bring that perspective. And I would also say, any list of organizations like this is kind of by definition incomplete, and so this would be our initial set of organizations. We would invite feedback from the board and the committee members themselves in future years about tweaks or additions that we might want to make. These were organizations that we felt pretty confident could bring a really valuable perspective while keeping the committee of manageable size, because we want them to be able to have really serious dialogues with each other about complex issues.
Ms. Nathan.
And did I count right that we have a maximum of 32 members, but we only have 26 designated right now? So we have a little bit of wiggle room if we're missing anything. We don't have all the slots filled yet.
Ms. Amundsen.
One thing that Director Workman and I had discussed when examining what other districts did was to invest in like 2 alternating years of students, so that, because it's like drinking from a fire hose trying to learn all that, right? So if you start them one year and then they're the models for the next year of students who comes in, so that might artificially inflate that number, because you might need to have that revolving door of students coming in. It was just an idea, which I'm sure the staff will be able to implement in whichever way they want, but I'm wondering if that wouldn't somewhat fill those empty spots.
I think we can take a look at that even without changing the resolution and see if, there's a lot of merit in that kind of continuity, try and make that.
Yeah, well, just because it's a lot to learn, and you just got done saying we're looking for people with finance expertise. It's, I think, a pretty safe bet to say the students won't have that, so. They'll have the ability to learn, absolutely, but won't have the history.
Ms. McLaughlin.
I apologize, if this is a repeat, but can you talk about the time frame for implementing this?
We, pending board approval, will begin both soliciting and, meaning there are some open slots, and then we will go out and reach out to these organizations. Starting in December, actually, we will need to get a sense from them when they would be available to meet, but our hope is that there's an initial meeting during the development of the budget that you will review in June. It will obviously not be as robust as in future years, where they will have a deep knowledge of the board budget before you actually start the development of it. But we would like to make sure that this committee is underway and fully convened before you review the budget in June.
Ms. Workman.
Yeah, Director Amundson and I had made those membership groups pretty broad. And so I really like the specificity that you have, and including the ones that you felt were really represented the diversity in our community. So I think this is a great change.
Ms. Amundson.
I would agree with that, but I noticed that we had stipulated just staff in general, and I'm wondering where like a paraprofessional would fall or a maintenance staff member would fall if they were so interested.
Director Amundson, we did not ultimately designate specific job categories of staff. It's an interesting point. You're right, that was part of the earlier discussions. I guess I'd commit to take that idea and seek diverse representation of staff. We didn't I think we were trying to avoid it almost seeming like it was a nomination based on like bargaining unit. Mm-hmm. But you're right, where you sit determines some of what you see. And so I think for us to think about diversity of staff perspective and the staff members is a really good idea.
So just to clarify then, these specific organizations that are listed, it doesn't mean you have to be a member of those organizations, and those are the only people who will be considered there.
Right, those would be the ones we're definitely going to reach out to. And we, as Director Nathan noted, we do have some additional slots up to the 34.
32.
32. Oh, it's getting smaller every night.
I'm just wondering if there's a way to make that really clear for those who come after us, because the way I read it, thinking if I were looking at it for the first time, it kind of looks like you can only be on the committee if you meet one of those groups in Section C, unless I'm missing wording elsewhere.
I think the intent, Director Amundson, was primarily based on appointment, but I understand that that's vague. I mean, that there would be additional staff members participating as well.
I think the question now, are we comfortable? I think this is a good discussion about who will be on the committee, how people will be invited. The issue now is, do you have enough information and confidence about this going forward that you're ready to vote on the resolution? It's an action item.
We would have to move it to action.
Well, except it's already an action item.
Okay. So we would have to move approval.
That would be the thing.
Okay.
So let's do that and see how it goes.
Move approval.
Second.
Well, I haven't read it yet.
Oh my gosh.
Because this is my favorite thing to do. Be it resolved, School Board of Independent School District 535 does hereby approve the Community Budget Advisory Committee's charge statement.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Good discussion. 9.02, World's Best Workforce and Achievement and Integration Plans Approval. Dr. Piquel.
Dr. Marvin and directors of the board, we are now just asking for your approval so we can submit the required form to the state of Minnesota by December 15th, I believe is the date. And you have had an extensive discussion at our previous study session and a very brief overview from Dr. Ruck earlier tonight, but extensive documentation is available to you and to the public. As we discussed earlier, we are both requesting the submission of our required report on the previous year and formal adoption of our new framework for improvement aligned to the strategic plan, which will guide future years' submissions of our World Best Workforce Plan.
And do you have questions or comments that have come up since the last time we had this discussion? Ms. Workman?
It's just a comment. I really appreciate your letting the community know that we have done a tremendous amount of work during our study session. So we're not coming into this, looking at it for the first time and saying, nobody has any questions, let's approve it. But this was part of a much more thorough process.
One which not only, to your point, Director Workman, you had discussion, but you actively informed, and we made revisions based upon that discussion. That's reflected in the final version that you see tonight.
Anything else? Then I will read the resolution in front of us. Be it resolved, School Board of Independent School District 535 approves and authorizes the superintendent to submit the combined World's Best Workforce and Achievement Integration Plans for the 2021-22 school years to the Minnesota Department of Education. Be it also resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 535 adopts the RPS Improvement Framework as the goals and measures for the district's World's Best Workforce and Achievement and Integration Plans for the 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, and 2024, 2025 school years.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to 10.0, the annual board calendar update. You have the revised calendar in front of you. Does anyone have questions or an issue they would like to bring up for consideration for a future meeting?
I think not so much bring up for a future meeting, but I think clarifying for the people who watch or want to provide us some feedback on things about how we are now actually trying to shift to getting our comments to the board and like how that might affect, how our prep time might affect them being able to get us questions or information. If we could just clarify that a couple of meetings in a row, that would be nice.
As part of our communication protocol. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, then we have upcoming board meetings. December 6th, we'll have a study session at 5 o'clock. December 13th, a special session about truth and taxation at 6 o'clock, followed by a regular meeting. And then in January, every Tuesday, we're going to have a meeting. So for those who think a day without a Tuesday without a board meeting is like a day without sunshine, January, we're having sunshine. Hold your applause.
Speak for yourself.
And if there is nothing else, it is now 7:57 and we are adjourned.
I'm going to be somewhere warm.
You're what?
I'm going to be somewhere warm.
Oh,